technological world, we must, as a nation, be alive to the fact that the risks that exist in the physical space are the same risks that exist in the digital space. So one of the reasons why perhaps this particular threat that we experienced looks a bit unique is because this is a new space. And Mr. Speaker, I want to prepare the country that even as we go towards embracing technology as we must be alive to the fact that there are risks in the digital space of an equal nature, if not greater, than the risks in the physical space. Honorable Speaker, another concern or supplementary issue which has been raised is the need for us to clarify whether we are prepared to deal with the risks in the digital space in the same manner as we have dealt with other threats to our national security. Mr. Speaker, sir, I confirm in the affirmative that the government will deal with all threats to our national security wherever they arise from, whether from the physical space, the digital space, from the technology space, or any space whatsoever. And therefore, this is a serious threat just like terrorism. It's a serious threat just like banditry. It's a serious threat just like trade in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. It is a threat just like those who want to intimidate us to use politics to commit crime. We will be firm with all threats to our national security wherever they arise. Thirdly, Honorable Speaker, a question has been asked on the money that was promised to the people of Kenya in exchange for their data. Honorable Speaker, I would not like to speak a lot on this area because as I have said, we have made great steps in the investigations, and I don't want to preempt investigations. But allow me, Honorable Speaker, to say that from us, as security managers, as the Ministry of Interior, what raised the red flag was the monetary inducement. For us, that is one of the earliest indications. And the moment it became apparent that that exercise that started, as I said, it was done for 2 days, and on the third day, we were clear that crimes are being committed from where we sit. So that inducement for us is an area of concern. The other red flag, other than the area of inducement, is that we suspect, again, that our understanding of the data protection law is that the processors of data must obtain consent. We are of the opinion that if at all any consent was sought, which is doubtful, that consent was not informed consent. And that's why we believe we will nail down people, we'll pin down people. It's just a matter of time. Honorable Speaker, a question has been asked on whether we are investing in crime prevention, and I want to answer in the affirmative. Because going forward, we are increasingly investing and concentrating on preventing crime before it happens, or arresting crime in the earliest opportunity, without, again, and I think this is an important clarification, Honorable Speaker, without, again, overly interfering with the ordinary activities that are allowed under the law. So by the time we come in, we must have reasonable grounds to suspect that crimes are being committed. Honorable Speaker, the other issue has been raised is on why we took a bit of time and only acted after things started happening. I would like to say the activities of this entity are not just the subject matter of a security investigation in Kenya alone. There are many other countries around the world, a few countries, and many of them are first world countries who are asking the same questions that we're asking today, including 2 countries in Europe, 1 country in Asia. So I don't think it is fair to say that perhaps the Kenyan authorities have not been prudent or alert enough, because I know the same issues have been raised in the United Kingdom, in France, in India, in Germany, and a few other countries. Honorable Speaker, we are certain that we will bring accountability, and I think there is no cause of alarm. In terms of the data which have been harvested so far, Honorable Speaker, we have preservation orders that data should not be processed. We have a court order, but we are informed by the experts that even if such data is already stored in the cloud, we are informed that it is still retrievable. And therefore, again, there is no cause of alarm, because we already know our people, the numbers of our people that had already gone through this process. And then finally, Honorable Speaker, I would like to just assure the people of Kenya that I know we are a very political country, which is a good thing, because democracy is supposed to bring the kind of vibrancy that we see in our space here as a country. But I want to plead with the representatives of the people, the honorable members, that on matters national security, we try and remove our politics and our democratic engagement from that space. That way, we'll be able to preserve the country for ourselves and our children. Thank you.
Speaker, I'm concerned that the cabinet secretaries are not treating this matter with the seriousness it deserves. Instead of getting responses as representatives of the people, we are getting lectures on things we know and the basis upon which we raised this issue with you. Honorable Speaker, I asked a simple question: whether this company as a foreign company is registered. And the Cabinet Secretary for Interior is saying it appears to be registered. The Cabinet Secretary in charge of ICT is saying it is registered, they are dealing with operational issues. Could we know? Because there is a legal consequence to a foreign company doing business in the country if they are not registered. In which case, Honorable Speaker, even before we check what they are doing with the data mined, the foreign agents of the company should be in court, and the fine is prescribed in Section 974. Not lectures on democracy, what people should do.
Honorable Kaluma, I thought the minister had earlier said that the WorldCoin group are not registered in Kenya, but they have local collaborators. Isn't that what you said? Yes. So your pursuit should be, who are the local collaborators? Are they going to be charged with conspiracy to commit crimes and all those other chains of criminal activities? And I think that is up to the minister to answer. Owalo, can we hear from the second minister before, unless it's a serious point of order? Yes, Honorable
thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just arise on a point of order because, you know, the House has allowed the CSS to come and answer matters of concern to Kenyans. But the CS of Interior has just told us that he does not want issues that are political. Now, when members of this House ask questions, they're obviously political because we are representatives of the people. And I think that's what the Honorable Kaluma has alluded to. Instead of giving us a lecture, kindly just respond to our questions, because there is no politics other than our representation of the people. Mr. Speaker, kindly guide the minister.
Zamzam, are you also on a point of order?
Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi swali langu lilikuwa tu dhahiri kuwa Kenya tuko katika hali tata ikiwa anga zetu zitakuwa zimeingiliwa. Na mheshimiwa pale alinikosoa akaweka kama ambayo namdhulumu yule minister, ni yale aliyosema rais wa taifa hili kuwa hawa ministers kuna vitu vingi hawavielewi. Mimi nimeuliza hii security ya nchi yetu iko sawa katika mikono yake kwa vile tumeingiliwa sana? Yeye amekuja anazungumza mambo ya siasa. Hapa si siasa kwa sababu hata mimi akaunti yangu pia ilikuwa hacked. Ndio maana nauliza, si masala ya siasa.
OWALO, we can't have endless chains of points of order.
Mr. Speaker, I think we had already indicated earlier, and I want to repeat, that WorldCoin as an entity is not a legally registered company in Kenya. Through the registrar, the Business Registration Service. But it is registered as a data collector. In terms of operationalization, WorldCoin has been undertaking its activities through a different entity, which is registered in Kenya. And it's on the basis of this.
OWALO,
Yeah.
the issue that Kaluma was asking is, if this entity is not registered,
Yes.
why did you allow an entity that has no legal status to start collecting data from Kenyans? I think that is the big question.
The issue here, Mr. Speaker, we have got many.
And hand in hand with that, so that we save time, because your colleague is waiting behind there, you should also answer Makali Mulus. And I, as the Speaker of this House, went and also did some research on Bitcoins. And there's nowhere in the world I found that to trade in cryptocurrency, you have to have your iris mined by any company. So that is also something that should assure Kenyans and members of parliament.
Mr. Speaker, WorldCoin was registered in Kenya as a data collector, not courtesy of the Business Registration Service. The prerequisites for purposes of registration as a data collector does not include or does not entail being registered as a company operating in Kenya. We are dealing with the digital space in this instance, Mr. Speaker. And there's many other companies, operating in Kenya which are not legally registered by the Business Registration Service. The other issue was on the Office of the Data Commissioner, Mr. Speaker. The Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, for purposes.
Yes, Honorable Naomi Wako, what is your point of order?
Thank you.
All the minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to know why they have allowed them to collect our data. Simple. Yeah.
Minister, that is the
I
bottom
think-
line, Minister.
Can we be a bit patient so that I do justice to this issue?
Okay.
The company that has
Order,
been
give the
collecting
minister
data.
an opportunity to answer. You have asked him questions, let him answer.
The company that has been collecting the data in Kenya is not WorldCoin. It is a surrogate of WorldCoin, Mr. Speaker. And these people have been apprehended by the security agencies. Two, the Office of the Data Commissioner, Mr. Speaker, operates under policy guidance from the Ministry of Information, Communication, and the Digital Economy.
Mary Kaitani, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the Cabinet Secretary for ICT to say that they can actually allow companies to operate in this country without any registration? Because that is, we've had his statement, and in his statement he's actually purporting that people can actually come into this country and operate without any registration. Can he tell us, is it in order for a company to come and operate in this country without proper registrations and proper identification before operations begin?
Minister, go on. Honorable members, let him finish answering. If I find it necessary to do another round, I will. Honorable Eliud Owalo, are you done?
Yes, I respond.
You are consulting.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, we were consulting because to the best of my mind, I am not sure that that obligation is in the current Data Protection Act. And for me, subject to confirmation, I just asked our PS here for ICT to confirm, if that obligation is in the Data Protection Act in terms of procedure for registration. Mr. Speaker, protect me, I finish the answer, and then the member can, yeah. So, Mr. Speaker.
Let him finish. Let him finish order.
He wanted to answer according to the government, not according to his mind. According to the government.
Go on, Kindiki.
Mr. Speaker, to the best of my mind, the Data Protection Act does not obligate the registration of data processors to be companies registered under the law of Kenya. And I've said with a caveat, I could be wrong. If it does, then definitely that is an oversight. If it does not, then it means we must amend the law going forward in consonance with the sentiments by the members to make sure that that becomes an accountability, an extra accountability layer for the future.
Yes, honorable members, I want to end here. Order. Yes, Kakai Bissau, what is your point of order? Minister, go hold your horses. I've given the floor to Bissau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Sitting here and listening at the way the two ministers are answering these questions, first of all, we have to remember that on that particular day, our country was under attack. And in fact, we thank you for coming together because now you give an impression that at least you're coordinating issues. But before that, we thought that you're completely not coordinating issues. What I want to say, Mr. Speaker, the CS Internal Security talked about it happened on the first day, they investigated on the second day, on the third day. That shows a lot of laxity. We cannot have such an issue where we are under attack. It takes 3 days, and we are saying we investigated. I know technology is moving at a very fast pace, and this is not the first or the last time. We're going to have most of these things happening. So what I would like the ministers to tell us, what are the mitigation measures you are putting in place so that when we have another technology attack, we are able to ensure that Kenyans are not suffering. And remember, those that were affected mostly were the people under the pyramid because there was some token given to them. So tell us what you're going to put in place to mitigate this. And lastly, we would like the perpetrators to be tabled and made it public. Thank you.
Kangoko Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the confusion we saw between the two cabinet secretaries, Mr. Speaker, has been brought to this House. Mr. Speaker, I would suggest it this way, Honorable Speaker. In fact, the more they explain to us or they answer these questions, the more we are confused. Mr. Speaker, I would suggest if you give them more time, they go and reconcile their thoughts. At the same time, they look at the facts. and then bring a correct information to this House, Mr. Speaker. Because from the start of this session, Mr. Speaker, the cabinet secretaries, they have been taking us round. At one point, they are saying the companies are not registered. And at another point, they are saying they are registered, but only for data collections. Mr. Speaker, we are not going to get correct answers from the cabinet secretaries now. I would ask that, Mr. Speaker, you direct that they go back and they bring us a correct and satisfactory answers.
Order, honorable members, for avoidance of doubt, honorable ministers, the Companies Act, Section 974, says as follows. A foreign company shall not carry on business in Kenya unless it's repeated, it is registered under this part, or it has applied to be so registered and the application is pending. So what WorldCoin is doing is illegal, even under the Companies Act, but I agree with Kangoko Bowen that ministers, you can see and feel, you can stop disparaging our ministers. You can see and feel the representatives of the people from where they sit. And I think this was captured by Makali Mulu. What has the mining of Kenyans' iris got to do with cryptocurrency? I think that is the issue. And that you are investigating, I'll give because like the young MP from John Paul, you are from Igembe, has been agitatingly coming to whisper to me that KICC is a government property. Who licensed these people to have long queues of Kenyans on government premises? Those are some of the questions MPs were asking. And I would want to encourage you as our ministers to account to the people of Kenya through their representatives in this House to get out to the bottom of this matter. And I also encourage you, ministers, that your multi-agency investigation team seem to include the Data Protection Commission, which actually gave authority to these people to do what they were doing. So they cannot possibly investigate themselves. And therefore, I would encourage you that for purposes of impartiality and openness, you may have to exclude them from your multi-agency team because you might find them culpable as well. I want us to end here so that we get in the Minister for Defense. Ministers, you are released to go. You will come back next Wednesday. And the next time you come, I encourage you because harmonize your thinking so that when you come, we have at least one of you speaking on behalf of both of you. Professor Kindiki?
Sorry, Speaker, to request to speak after you've already given your directive. I wanted to suggest as follows.
Yes.
This matter is very complex.
Yes.
As you have already noted about the KICC facility and so on, it involves so many ministries, departments, agencies.
Yes.
This is my fear, Honorable Speaker, that unless maybe you can accommodate all the agencies here, I would have suggested, because the members have raised very valid issues, and I agree with them, this is a very serious national issue. If there is a way to package the, there is the security aspect, there is the ICT aspect, there is the business registration aspect, there is the so many other things. And perhaps maybe that way we can help the members so that we don't bore you and we don't come here and because these answers are all over the place and it's not enough for one ministry or even the two ministries to respond conclusively, including our agencies. I wanted to plead, Speaker, you consider whether there is another way in which we can provide the same information to the House, maybe separately, yes, maybe at departmental committees and so forth. And finally, from where we sit, we are willing to be of service to the House as many times as possible, but in a more organized way so that we also don't waste Parliament's time with endless repetition of the same subject.
I get your point, Minister. What I'll do, I have enough people to segregate the issues, and I'll give you advice through formal communication. As you leave now, the direction is that you come on Wednesday, but in between, once we are able to segregate the issues to see which ones are security, which ones are ICT, they look intertwined now, and which ones are other departments, will be able to guide you accordingly. You have a valid concern. Colin, yes, Shakil, I want to close this.
It was very important, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg your indulgence. The issue of the information that has already been mined, I wanted to ask if the Minister for IT and Internal Security, both of them, can make applications wherever that information has gone, because they have a way to find what information was routed to where, to make an application at the destination of that information for it to be held to our order. You know, I don't know. The Minister
already said that they have gone to court. They have orders to preserve the data already mined.
That is
and that even the data stored in the clouds is retrievable.
But that's a court in Kenya, sir. What we will hear later on, yes, is the United Kingdom court or the American court. No application was served upon them, and they as such could not retain that information. So I was urging that since we can find out, even our telephone calls, we can know where it's going, the information that has been transmitted already should be now, we identify where it is and put an application in the court of that country.
Ministers have heard you. Ministers,
thank you, sir.
If the agencies will extend extra territorial investigations, so be it. I'm sure you have got collaborative processes with other agencies elsewhere. Can you usher in the Minister for Defense? The Minister for Security comes in, I acknowledge the following schools in the public and speakers gallery: Elangata Enterit Primary School from Narok, South Narok; All Saints Kamoyo Preparatory School from Mosop, Nandi; Kapchoge Primary School from Marakwet East, Elgeyo Marakwet; Sitotwo Primary School from Keio South, Elgeyo Marakwet; Kapkoiga Girls High School from Keses, Uasin Gishu. On my behalf and on your behalf, I welcome the schools to the House of Parliament. Honorable members, the Minister for Defense is now in the House. Where's my order paper? Minister, we have welcome to the House, a house where you have been for years. You are now back with a different hat. You are now here to answer questions. I will start with the question number 008 of 2023. The member for Ugunja, Opio Andai. The chair is aware that Opio Andai is not in the House. Him and his majority counterpart are engaged in discussions elsewhere on for purposes of bringing tranquility in the country. Is there anybody who has been tasked to ask that question on his behalf? Honorable Mwenje, I will only allow you if you have instructions in writing. If you don't have instructions in writing, I'll... Yes. If you have no written instructions, you have no authority to ask the question. The chair must take responsibility that in case anything untoward is said, we hold members responsible, and the member will come back and say you had no authority to ask the question. And you'll have no defense. So we leave it there. The question is not dropped, it's put aside. And in the event Honorable Duale doesn't come to the House so soon, I'll direct him to send a written answer to the Honorable Opio Andai. Honorable Minister, you'll send a written answer to the Honorable Andai. Next question is a question 229 of 2023, member from Mwingi North, Paul Nzengu. Paul Nzengu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, I do not have a hard copy of the question. I was looking for it, but I cannot find it. So I don't know whether